Was it a good night or bad night for UFC?
It was a tremendous night. Who's saying it was a bad night? Don't listen to, Dana's doing the whole sad dad routine
I know.
But, he's so disappointed in everyone. If this fight gets made again in 6 months, rest assured, all that footage and then some will be used. There's talk of Khabib being stripped of his belt. None of that is going to happen. Yeah, he might get a slap on the wrist. Yeah, he might get a suspension or a fine, 6-month suspension, something like that. But let's not forget, this is a guy who fights every 6 to 9 months. So even if they give him a suspension, what is he really losing out on? This was the second highest gate in UFC history, the highest in the state of Nevada. And by all accounts, it's going to smash all their pay-per-view records. It was an incredible night for the company.
What did Conor make off this fight?
He said that he stands to make around 50 or so million. A dream of his has always been to make 9 figures for an MMA fight. I asked him last week before the fight if he stood to make that. He said he was halfway there. So not quite what he made for the Floyd Mayweather fight, but 50 million. If you would have told me 5 years ago that a fighter in the UFC was going to make 50 million for one fight after the pay-per-view numbers come in and everything like that, and he gets a cut of pay-per-view, I would have called you the biggest liar on earth. I mean, that's just unfathomable. I don't think the entire UFC roster is making 50 million combined outside of Conor McGregor. So this was a very good night for him as well. And in true Conor fashion, he's not hiding from this. He's not going, into a dark place. He's not licking his wounds. He's already calling for a rematch because A, he's that kind of a competitor, and B, he knows how much more money he stands to make in the rematch.
So what happens next?
Well, what happens next is that Nevada will probably, give Khabib some kind of punishment, fine, suspension, but it's not going to be anything drastic. He is not going to get stripped. And Dana said afterwards that, anyone who ran into the cage or threw a punch, if any of those people are on the UFC roster and some are on the UFC roster, they will be cut. Well, to that I'll say, why? You didn't cut anyone after what happened in Brooklyn, and there were people on the UFC roster who were, involved in that incident at the Barclays Center with the dollies and the chairs being thrown at the bus. So you can't do it now. Everyone on this Monday morning wants to blame someone. They want to blame Khabib for jumping over. They want to blame Conor's training partner, Dylan Dennis, for yelling at him. They want to blame Conor for throwing the punch. They want to blame Khabib's training partner for punching Conor. Guess what? Everyone's to blame. From April to October, everyone is to blame. Everyone has some sort of part in all of this, from the way this was promoted to the talk about religion and family and Russian politics. Everyone was to blame. You cannot be surprised for what happened on Saturday. This was very combustible. And so at this point, they just need to move on, accept it. And at some point, I would not be shocked if they do the rematch. And I would certainly not be shocked if all this footage that everyone is claiming to be so upset about is used heavily in the promotion for that rematch.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.